Okay, hi everyone. I hope you're all keeping well. For those of you maybe who might not have seen our previous presentations, my name is Rahul, one of the co-founders of Travel the Unknown. And thank you for joining us for today's talk on Colombia. We have a very soft spot for Colombia. It was our first destination in Latin America back in 2010. And I've been fortunate to have visited this incredible country on a couple of occasions. So Colombia has turned the corner from its troubled past actually many years ago. And only now people are becoming a little bit more aware of what this country has to offer. It's blessed with two coastlines, the Pacific and the Caribbean coastlines. It's considered the #1 country in the world for its diverse bird life. It has stunning colonial towns, lush coffee plantations, the mighty Amazon rainforest, and even a lost city, which you can see behind me. We're very pleased to have our local partner help present today's talk. So Carolina will be speaking a little bit later about what her country has to offer. I'm sure most of you are now familiar with our format, but for those of you who are not, we'll go through the usual housekeeping rules. So as mentioned, if you could please keep your mics muted at all times, videos disabled. And then for the question and answer session at the end, as usual, we will be doing this via the chat function. So for those using a desktop and a laptop, you'll see a chat icon at the bottom of your screen. If you please submit any questions that way. And for those using mobile devices or a tablet, it's usually found via the participants button. So a little bit about Carolina. As mentioned, she's in Colombia, so she's speaking to us live from Bogota, where she was born, brought up. She knows the country like the back of her hand, so we thought she'd be the kind of perfect person to show you around the country. So I'm going to hand over to her, and then I'll join you after she's finished speaking. So Carolina, if you want to take over the screen, please. Okay. And Carolina, we can't hear you yet. If you could just unmute yourself, please.
Hi, everyone. Good evening and welcome to Colombia. Thank you for the introduction. So Colombia is located in the north of South America. We have the Caribbean Sea in the north. We have the Pacific Ocean in the west, and we are also bordered by Ecuador, Peru, Brazil, Venezuela, and Panama. So Colombia is a privileged country because we have all known climate zones. We have snow mountains, we have deserts, we have coast. You can visit the country all over the year because we don't have season, just the rainy and the dry season, but each region has its own weather. We are about 50 million people. Colombia is a multi-ethnic and multicultural country. Before the Spanish conquest that was in 1500, the territory was inhabited by indigenous tribes, but after that there was a mixture of three cultures. So American Indians, Europeans, mostly Spanish, and also Africans. In Colombia also arrived Jews, Arabs, Gypsies, but in smaller proportions. So these communities still keep their traditions at the moment. At the present, there are 87 indigenous communities spread in 27 departments, and the culture is evidenced in the gastronomy, in the music, in some festivals that we have, and also in the art. So talking about diversity, Colombia is the second most diverse country in the world. We have the first country on diversity of birds and also in orchids. You can see birds in different areas of Colombia, so it's the perfect spot for bird watching. You can go to the coast, to the Caribbean coast, to the Pacific coast, to the Amazon as well, or even in the plains of the country, you can see birds. So when you come to Colombia, the idea is to start in Bogota because it's the arrival city, and to end in Cartagena because it's the most known destination of the country. In between, you can visit cities, some areas in the Caribbean or Pacific coast, some colonial towns, And we have also some nature and archaeological places. So now we are going to start with Bogota, which is here. Bogota is the capital city of the country. We are about 8 million inhabitants. The average temperature is 14 degrees, but you have to be prepared because for a rainy and a sunny day, the weather here is crazy. So Bogota is a modern city with a colonial area that is in the center of the city, like here. So now, we like some of the points of interest in Colombia, like Candelaria neighborhood, where you can see the colonial architecture and you can learn about the history of the country. You can also visit the Gold Museum, that it is one of the best museums, of the most important museums of its type in the world. It has an impressive collection of pre-Columbian art. Another highlight is BOTERO Museum. So Fernando Botero is a well-known Colombian artist, and all his paintings and sculptures have a lot of volume, like this one. This is the Mona Lisa by Fernando Botero. You can also visit some local markets to taste some fruits, vegetables, and see like near the culture here in Colombia. Another highlight near Bogota is the Salt Cathedral of Zipaquirá. This is a work of engineering because a cathedral was built inside a salt mine. There is only 2 places like this one in the world, one in Poland and the other one here near Bogota, about 45 minutes by car. So now we are going to visit Villa de Leyva, which is in this area. So Villa de Leyva is 3 hours by car from Bogota. On the way you can visit Zipaquirá, and the idea to go there is to enjoy the architecture of this place. It's a colonial town, and the main square of Villa de Leyva is one of the largest squares in America. So you can also visit some museums in the area, and 2 nights of stay here are perfect. From Villa de Leyva, we are going to travel to one of the most important archaeological destinations of the country, which is San Agustin. So to get there, first you have to travel by a plane to Neiva from Bogota, and then take a 6-hour drive to San Agustin. On the way, you can visit TATACOA Desert, that used to be a prehistoric green landscape with with many plants and animals, but nowadays is the second largest arid areas in the country after La Guajira. So another highlight and the most important one in San Agustin is the archaeological park of San Agustin. This place was declared as a World Heritage Site by the UNESCO. An unknown civilization made this kind of sculptures with volcanic rock, and the sculptures have forms of pumas, snakes, the good and evil, and were found after years of excavation underground. So from San Agustin, we are going to visit Popayán. The way to get there is by land from San Agustin and take about 5 hours, or you can also get to Popayán by plane. Popayán is also known as the White City, and the historic center of Popayán is one of the highlights. It's considered the most beautiful and the well-preserved city center of Colombia. Another highlight in Popayán, like near Popayán, is Silvia. So this town is about 45 minutes by car from Popayán, and the idea to go there is to to meet the Guambianos, which is an indigenous community. They descend every Tuesday to Silvia, to the market, to sell the fruits, vegetables, and crafts. So from Popayán, from here, we are going to go to the Coffee Triangle. The transfer from Popayán takes about 5 hours, but you can also get here by plane from other destinations. So the coffee triangle is composed by 3 states that share the coffee culture and the landscape, the green landscape. So one of the points of interest in the coffee triangle are the coffee haciendas, where you can learn more about the coffee culture and also the process of this product. There is another highlight that is the COCORA Valley, where you are going to find this kind of landscape. These are wax palms that are our national tree, and each palm can reach a height of 60 meters. This is part of the Los Nevados National Park. Also, in the coffee region, you can visit a colonial town like Salento. This is a very colorful town. You can see like some crafts in the area, and there is a viewpoint to see the COCORA Valley. So in terms of accommodation, this region of the country has like a very good offer, but the idea is to stay in an hacienda because it's more authentic and you feel that you are in the area. It's surrounded by nature. So from the coffee region, we are going to Medellin. So the transfer by car from the coffee region takes about 6 hours, but you can also get to this area by plane from different cities. Is also known as the city of the eternal spring because of the weather. It's perfect. They have flowers all over the year. Fernando Botero, like Medellin is Fernando Botero's hometown. This is an open air museum that has 21 sculptures by him. Medellin is the only city in Colombia that has metro system, and it was recognized as one of the most innovative cities in 2013. So the transformation of the city is one of the highlights, because during the 80s, Medellin was one of the most dangerous places in the world because of the drug trafficking. So the idea is to see the transformation, visit some neighborhoods that are like the comunas, like the favelas in Brazil, to learn, like to have spend some time with the communities and know how the life has changed with the transformation in a positive way. Another highlight near Medellin is Santa Elena. So this is a town about 45 minutes by car. The idea to go there is to visit a farm, see the colorful gardens, and also to learn about the silleteros tradition. So the silleteros were people that during the colonial times used to carry in an artifact made of wood the Spanish in their bags. Nowadays, they decorate those artifacts with flowers, and there is a very important festival every August. Another highlight is El Peñol, that is a monolithic rock in the middle of a water reservoir. So you can visit the reservoir by boat. And very close to El Peñol, you will find Guatapé. Guatapé is another colonial town. It's very colorful. All the houses are painted in pastel colors and have this kind of decorations at the bottom. So after Medellin, we are going to travel to Tayrona. But to get to Tayrona, you have to first fly to Santa Marta from Medellin or also from Bogota. You need to have a transfer for about 1 hour and 15 minutes. And the Tayrona National Park is part of Sierra Nevada de Santa Marta, which is the highest coastal mountain region in the world. The idea to go there is to enjoy the flora and fauna of the place, the sandy beaches, the crystal waters. Here you can see a lot of birds, monkeys, squirrels, caimans, and among other animals. There are also some archaeological places inside the park, and near the Tayrona And inside, there are some indigenous communities that live in the area, so you can also like spend some time with them. In terms of accommodation in the area of Tayrona, there are different options, but inside the park, the best option is ECOHABS, that are these huts located in a hill and have an ocean view. So from Tayrona, we are going to Cartagena. Cartagena is 5 hours by car from Tayrona, or you can also get to Cartagena by plane from different cities. As I mentioned before, it's the most known destination. It has the largest fortification in America and is a cultural and an historical destination. It's not a beach destination because the sand is very dark. So one of the points of interest is the walled city. Here you can enjoy the architecture of the place, the colorful gardens, balconies, sorry. You can also like enjoy the gastronomy of the area. It's very romantic, especially during the evenings. So for honeymoon is a perfect place. You can also visit San Felipe Fortress, which was built to protect the city against the pirate attacks during the colonial times. So Cartagena is a destination like very rich in culture. So this is a palenquera. This woman come from Palenque, which is a town 1 hour by car from Cartagena. And Palenque was the first town free of slavery during the colonial times. So the population of this town has a lot of African influences and are visible in the gastronomy, in the rhythm. They have their own language, so they still keep their traditions. And when you go there, it's like to travel to Africa. Another highlight near Cartagena is the Rosario Island. So if you want to relax and enjoy like beach time, it's a perfect place. It's 45 minutes by boat, and you can have a day trip, or you can like stay in some options for accommodation that are in the area. So those are like the most known destinations of Colombia. And now I'm going to show you some destinations that are more out of the beaten track, like the Pacific. So to get to the Pacific, first you have to fly from Medellin to Nuquí or to Vallasolano. This area is considered one of the most biodiverse and rainy areas on Earth. It's a pristine jungle that have exotic beaches. As you can see in this picture, the sun is very dark. It's like very rich in flora and fauna. You can see birds, you can see turtles, you can see also whales. There is a whale season that takes place from July to October, but you can visit the destination all over the year because it's rich of nature, and also it's rich in culture, because the population here also have a lot of African influences, so you can spend some time with them. From the Pacific, we are going to Caño Cristales, but to get to Caño Cristales, you have to take a flight from Bogota to La Macarena. This area is also known as the River of the Five Colors. So there are 2 seasons in this destination, in this region, that are the colorful season and also the dry season. So the colorful season, the landscape is like this one, is like this picture. The color of the river is given by a plant that grows in the surface of the rock. And this season is from June to November. And from December to March, you can visit this area, but like not exactly the river, but another area. And you can have like some safaris on the river. You can also learn about the llaneros culture, like llaneros are like the cowboy culture here. You can also see pink dolphins because Caño Cristales is the transition between the Orinoquia and the Amazon. So it's a beautiful place. And then we have the Amazon. So to get to the Amazon, you have to take a flight from Bogotá to Leticia, which is the city of the Amazon, the main city of the Amazon. The Amazon in Colombia is not like the tourism and the infrastructure in the Amazon of Colombia is not as developed as in Peru, as in Brazil, but it's very authentic. So the highlights here are the flora and fauna. You can see the Victoria regia, which is an aquatic lily that grows in this area. You can also see pink dolphins, monkeys, among other animals. And you can also spend some time with the indigenous communities. So this is the Amazon. You can have some trips on the river. And the accommodation, there is one option that is in the jungle. So you can have that experience too in the Amazon. So last but not least, we have the Lost City. So the Lost City is located in the north, in the coast of the country. To get there, you have to first fly from to Santa Marta, and then take a transfer that takes like almost 2 hours, 1 hour and 45 minutes. This place was a feat of engineering for of the TAYRONA, of the ancient TAYRONA culture. So this place is sacred for the culture that inhabited in the area, that are the Kogis, the Wiwas, and the idea to go there is to have a trekking that like takes between 3 and 5 days, depending on your physical conditions. The infrastructure here is very basic, but it's a really, really interesting place to visit. So thank you so much for your time. I hope that you have learned a little bit about Colombia today.
Thank you, Carolina. I'll just take over from here. Okay. Give me a second. Okay. So you should hopefully be able to see my slide. Thank you, Carolina, for giving us kind of a whistle-stop tour of Colombia. Obviously, there was a lot to pack into about 20 minutes, but hopefully it'll give you a little bit of a flavor of the diversity of the country. So we have actually, I think at last count, we had 13 or 14 tours in Colombia. So I'm just going to skim through 3 of our main tours. And then there's plenty of private options as well, which you'll be able to find out more about on our website. So our first and one of our most popular tours is the Classic Colombia tour. And as the name suggests, it's perfect for first-time visitors. And the places mentioned there are all those that were mentioned by Carolina earlier. So obviously most tours start in Bogota, then onto the Salt Cathedral in Zipaquirá, then Villa de Leyva, which was a beautiful colonial town that Carolina mentioned. And then these places, Pereira, Valle de Cocora, Finlandia, and Salento, all in the coffee region. And it's a gorgeous place. I mean, I was very lucky to have visited that some years back. And then Medellin, and then finishing in Cartagena. So we have a couple of group departures next year. And again, all trips can run on a private basis. Okay, the next tour, it's a slightly more in-depth tour. So it covers the places just mentioned, but it also goes down south. So again, San Agustin, which was an archaeological park in the south. There's pre-Columbian statues, which are truly incredible. And again, we go north up to Cartagena, Santa Marta, Tayrona as well. And sorry, after San Agustin, we take in the white city of Popayán. So again, that was something, a place that Carolina had mentioned. We have a couple of departures next year on this tour. And as always, we have private options as well. This is a really nice trip. In the sense that it takes in, again, the key highlights, but it also takes in a festival in southern Colombia. It's the Festival de Blancos y Negros, I think the whites and blacks. It's a really, really unique festival that takes place once a year. It's towards the end of the year and beginning of so December, Jan overlap. So most departures are usually around about the 27th of December. So that's a really nice tour for anybody wanting to see the main highlights of Colombia, but also take in a festival if the dates suit. And just in terms of some of the practicalities, the time difference with Colombia is 5 hours behind GMT. There are currently direct flights from the UK with Avianca, and obviously from Europe as well, especially Spain and the US. Visas aren't typically required for many nationalities, especially from kind of Western Europe, UK, US, etc. Again, we don't know if any visa restrictions will come in next year, but hopefully they won't. The main currency in Colombia is the Colombian peso, and ATMs are widely available. As Carolina mentioned, it's a great country to visit year-round. Of course, there are kind of rainy seasons as well in certain parts of the country. So obviously, it's worth checking beforehand, where it is you're going and what the weather will be like then. All right, so we'll move on to questions. It's okay. So let's see what questions we have. Okay, I guess one of the first questions that's come in is kind of how safe is Colombia? So Carolina, would you like to give your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Yes, so Colombia is very safe. Of course, there are some remote areas that you don't have to visit, like when you travel to the country. So, but it's like in every big city, you have to like be aware of your stuff, and that's it. But people here are very friendly, and we love like foreigners here. So people are going to help you, and yeah, it's very safe to travel.
Okay, great. And then we've asked what would be the best places for bird life? You mentioned obviously Colombia,
For what? Sorry?
For bird life, for birding.
Okay, perfect.
Which regions of Colombia would you say are best for that?
Okay, so you can visit the llanos or the plains of Colombia. Here you have a lot of birds. Here we have like a safari to see like not only birds, but it's very rich in birds. You can also visit the Caribbean coast, like near La Guajira. There are different species. In the Tayrona and in the Lost City, there are also a lot of birds. And in the Pacific is also a good spot to see birds. In the coffee region, we also offer, like we also have different points to see birds. Near Bogota, we have hummingbirds. Like, so it's like in every place that you visit, you are going to have birds. So of course that depends like on the time that you have, the places that you want to visit, and if you want to focus just in birds, like we can like easily visit 4 or 5 spots.
Great. And in terms of food, what would be the main food highlights in Colombia?
Okay, so we don't have, like, each region has its own weather. So we have fruits, vegetables, like in different areas, like different in different areas. So each region has its like own typical dish. So for example, in Bogota, the most traditional is the ajiaco, that is a soup like made of potatoes, have chicken, is like really delicious. Like in the coffee region and Medellin is bandeja paisa, that it is very similar to the breakfast, like the English breakfast, that have beans. It's very like it's full of carbs because people in the past used to eat this like to get full of energy and work during the whole day. Of course, this option is not very healthy, but it's delicious.
Yeah, I was also going to say, sorry, just for interrupting. I remember from my trip there, I think some of the fruit as well in Colombia is phenomenal. I mean, you showed a picture of the market earlier on. And I think that's a real highlight, I think, for anybody just genuinely interested in food, or from a visual perspective as well. It's kind of how bright and colorful the fruits are. And a lot of the fruit I'd never seen before. So that was really good.
Yes, and something interesting is that we have more than 365 fruits in Colombia. So basically you can eat a different fruit each day of the year. So yeah, it's
and what's
really
it
good.
like? What is it like for vegetarians, Colombia?
Okay, so vegetarians, like in the main cities, you can find options for them, but there are some remote areas that are more basic, like the options are like reduced. But for example, if you go to Bogota, to Medellin, to Cartagena, even to the coffee region, you are going to find definitely a lot of options. Also in Villa de Leyva. In the Amazon, it's like difficult to find like a lot of options, but you are going to have options. The idea is that we know in advance this, so we can like prepare everything.
Yeah, and obviously you finished with the Lost City, and I know it's quite an arduous trek. So for those who are really fit, it's a nice option. Is it possible to visit the Lost City without the trekking? Do you know?
Yes, it is possible to have an overflight by helicopter. There are some restrictions in the area, but you can do it like from Santa Marta or also from Cartagena. So you can do this overflight.
And what other trekking options would you suggest in Colombia besides the
So
Lost
we
City?
have the option of the trekking to El Cocuy, that is located here in Boyacá, to the park of El Cocuy. It's a snow mountain, so you have to be prepared for a cold weather. And you need to take a transfer for about 8 hours to the area, and the trekking takes about 5 days approximately, of course, depending on your physical conditions.
Okay, and regarding the Amazon, obviously you touched on that towards the end. Firstly, when is the best time would you suggest to visit the Amazon? And again, what are the lodges like there and the kind of activities that one can do there?
Okay, so the Amazon has 2 different seasons. Both seasons are completely different because one is the dry season, when you can get easily by walk to the highlights, to the places, and the rainy season that you have to take a boat to get there because there is a lot of water in the area. The highlights in the Amazon are the pink dolphins, like the trip on the river to see the pink dolphins. Also, there is an island, a place that is a sanctuary for monkeys, because there used to be a lot of trafficking of animals in the area. So you can go to see the animals, but in a place where they protect the monkeys. You can also visit some communities, indigenous communities that are located in Amacayacu. Is a national park, but it was closed like years ago. So, and also Puerto Nariño, that is a very sustainable city. No, it's a town, but you can also go there and learn more about the traditions of these people.
Okay, great. I'm glad some people have asked about Mompox, because I believe it's one of the most picturesque, I think, colonial towns as well in Colombia. Could you explain a little bit more about Mompox, where it is, how to get there? From what I remember, it can be a bit of a journey to get there, but well worth it.
Yes. So Mompox is in the middle, like is in between in Magdalena and Bolivar here. To get there, you can like go by car from Cartagena or from Santa Marta. The transfer takes about 6 hours, but now there is a flight, of course, when a flight direct from from Cartagena. This is like this town inspired Gabriel Garcia Marquez in different of like in his novels. Is a place like the time stood still. It's very quiet. You can visit a mangrove that is the Ciénaga de Pijino, enjoy the flora and fauna, but it's a quiet place. So the idea is to enjoy that kind of lifestyle that they have in like there in Mompox. As I mentioned, is in between is in between Santa Marta and Cartagena is here. The Magdalena River, that is the longest river in Colombia that crosses almost all the country, arrives like in that in Mompox, and you can visit Mompox all year. There is a very famous festival, jazz festival in September, and is also very famous during Holy Week because they have some religious like events during Holy Week as well.
Yeah, and again on our tours, again we can organize private trips to Mompox as well. So anyone who is interested in traveling to Colombia and want to see Mompox, it's certainly a place that we can take you to. All right, and then I mean, you did touch on Colombia being a year-round destination, but are there any particular months where you think are absolutely best to visit Colombia? Again, I know it depends on where you are, but say if you're doing a classic trip, doing Bogota, Cartagena, the coffee region, what time of year do you think is best for those places?
Okay, so like we suggest to visit Colombia during the like low season because you are going to enjoy more the destinations. Like we are not like we don't receive like many tourists, but when it's high season, like you are going to find like some places with a lot of people, so we prefer to avoid that. You can visit Colombia like from the mid of January. Also February, the weather is good, but it's high season sometimes. It's good as well, but it is not local tourism, so it's not packed. You can also visit Colombia in June, in April, in March, April, May. October is also a good month to visit, and November as well. So yeah, we suggest just to like avoid if you don't like crowded places, the end of December, and yes, and first days of January, but that is like on you. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, again, from my experience, when I visited, I think very few countries I've seen in Latin America match the kind of colonial charm that many of the cities, you know, in Colombia have. I mean, there's an area we haven't touched on today in Santander, Barichara, absolutely stunning colonial town, very kind of a sleepy, calm place. And again, near there's a place called San Gil, which is kind of for those who want to get a bit of an adrenaline rush, for kind of adventure activities, etc. That's a great place as well. I seem to remember they have kind of a unique delicacy as well, isn't it, in Santander? I think the ants.
Yes.
Carolina, I don't know, maybe you can explain more. I didn't try them, but they are a delicacy there.
There are like places that sell them, like the big ass ants.
Yeah.
The taste is, people say that is like peanut, but like I don't like personally, like, but yes. And as I mentioned, like the gastronomy in Colombia is very rich. In the area of Santander, the food is delicious. In the Pacific as well, so
yeah.
yes.
And again, with the Pacific, you just touched on that area as well. It's not on our standard tours, but again, you know, we do organize private trips to the Pacific coast as well. And again, if you can time it with when the whales are there, then obviously that's a bonus, for sure. And there's also a place kind of in the northwestern part of this map called San Andres and Providencia. Again, there were too many places to mention in this presentation, but for those really wanting to get slightly a bit more, you know, a bit more off the beaten track, but want a bit of, you know, calm, quiet, and beautiful beach, then those two islands as well are really worth visiting if you have the time. Is there anything you want to say on those places, Carolina?
Yes, like you can get to San Andres from Cartagena or also from Bogota. Is the longest flight in Colombia because these islands are like quite far from Colombia. San Andres is more like San Andres and Providencia are known as the seven colors, the Sea of the Seven Colors. The water in the area are very clear. San Andres is more like for locals. But if you want something like more private, you can go to Providencia, because you have to take a flight that takes about 25 minutes, 30 minutes from San Andres. There is like one really good option of accommodation in Providencia. It's perfect for diving and relax and like, yeah, like relax and like get out of the crowded areas. Yeah.
Right. I mean, there are a few questions, understandably, about COVID, and obviously today's presentation was mainly talking about Colombia as a destination. But just to touch on that, I mean, obviously at the moment, things are fairly fluid. So the situation in Latin America is not particularly good at this moment in time. Of course, things are changing quite quickly. So we are hoping that trips will start to run kind of more regularly from the beginning of next year. That's why we've also introduced our flexi deposit scheme. So if for any reasons there are quarantine restrictions or other restrictions in place that would prevent you from traveling, and you've booked and paid a deposit for the trip, so long as flights are not booked, then we can, move that to another departure as well. So we have given a bit of flexibility, so we wouldn't be too concerned on that front. But of course, we're keeping a watch and seeing kind of how the situation unfolds there. Carolina, someone's asked about the road system, what's transport like? Obviously, you mentioned that there's some 5-hour, 6-hour drives, depending on where you're going. I mean, how are the roads generally throughout Colombia?
Okay, so as I mentioned at the beginning, we have the Andes Mountains across the middle of the country. So the geography is like the reason why we have to include a lot of flights, because this is a huge country and some transfers can take like 8 hours, 10 hours. So the idea is that you really enjoy your time here and not spend a lot of time like on the roads. So we have like some good areas to go like by car, like Villa de Leyva from Bogota, also like Medellin from the coffee region, and also you can visit like the area that you mentioned before, Barichara, that is another colonial area from Villa de Leyva. It's a 4-hour drive. So these areas, these roads are really good, but there are some difficult areas because like some part of the roads are very curvy. For example, the transfer from San Agustin to Popayán, you have to have like a driver because the road is unpaved. So yeah, it's not easy to just travel around Colombia by car by yourself. There are some good spots to do it that are like the conditions of the roads are good and the signal is good, but there are some others that we prefer to avoid. Sure. Because are quite difficult. Yeah.
Someone's also, I mean, you touched on safety before, and I kind of echoed what you said earlier. For female travelers, solo female travelers, I mean, anything different to say in that regard in terms of safety?
No, I think that you can travel, like you can feel safe in Colombia. Yeah. Is like.
Yeah, no, I mean, I completely echo that. I mean, from my experience as well, I think the people were possibly amongst the friendliest I'd met in yes. all of Latin America. And I think what really struck me is like how proud Colombians are of showing their country, showing actually that it's not what the news might have portrayed Colombia as, many years ago. So I really think there's no concern on that front. And of course, if you're on a trip, you'll be well looked after as well. So I wouldn't really worry about that at all. All right, well, we are kind of coming to the end of our time. So Carolina, I just wish to thank you again for making the time to speak to us from Bogota today. And again, just to echo what Carolina has said, and hopefully what would have come across, is that if you've not been to Colombia before, I would certainly strongly urge you, that should be one of your next must-see destinations. It's very different to its neighbors. It's packed with diversity. Some of the best people, friendliest people I've ever met. And yeah, it didn't cease to surprise me when I was traveling there. So I would certainly say, should the situation allow it to, and hopefully it will, I really suggest if next year, if you can go to Colombia, you should make it, you know, #1 on your list. Okay, and then just to get into our future talks, I think there was a slide on this a little earlier. Yeah, so in 2 weeks' time, we're going to be doing a talk on North India. It'll be more of a slightly historical angle to that. 2 weeks later, we will be presenting a talk on Ethiopia, so that should be really good. And then the end of September, there'll be a talk on the Philippines, and that'll be at an earlier time. Again, as ever, you just register on our website, traveltheunknown.com/events. For anyone who missed any part of this presentation, the recording will be on our website, hopefully by tomorrow. So you'll be able to watch that there. And in the meantime, hope you all stay well, and hope to see you all again in 2 weeks' time.